In this video, I will reveal the secret behind Yif's famous French bread appearing trick. Here's a quick recap of what happened. He initially kneads a piece of dough, rolling it into a ball with his bare, empty hands. Then places the dough in one hand and magically transforms it into a large French baguette, as if it were materializing from a mystical portal. As impossible as this trick may appear, Yif unfortunately failed to execute this trick successfully on national TV.
梦想，这是来自幻想。只要相信，只要意念足够强大，就可以从梦想中。
Despite this embarrassing moment, you will still be left confused about how the original viral trick was done. The cameraman didn't do a great job following Yif's hand as he moved the bread out of the tube in the wall behind him. Failing to track, his hand exposed the tube, which the magician tried to cover with his body and by pushing the camera away. It was too late, however. This career-ending moment turned into a huge disgrace to his entire family. Just kidding, nothing really happened. You may have noticed that in his original performance, the magician is not as close to the back wall as in his live act. Even if we were to assume that the tube was behind him and very long, things still wouldn't add up, since the French baguette was produced from right to left on the screen, unlike from back to front in his live TV act. One might consider the bread to be flexible, but in reality, bending the bread at a 90-degree angle as you pull it out would completely deform and break the look of the bread. Unlike the perfectly baked French baguette we saw, the hollow tube would have to be positioned in the same direction as the bread. Now wait a minute. In this close-up shot, we spot a faint blur around the outside of his pinky, followed by a distorted bulge that suddenly disappears near his ring finger. Another greenish distorted bulge appears on his forearm. If it isn't already obvious, this is accomplished with the help of a technique known as chroma keying, or green screening. This technique is commonly used in video production to remove a particular color, usually green or blue, and replace it with another image or video. A green tube containing the French baguette was brought into frame right behind the magician's left hand, out of which he pulled the French baguette straight out, without having to bend it in awkward angles and avoid breaking and deforming it. Before this video was sent to have this green tube edited out, the magician made sure to keep his left hand stationary during the production of the bread, but because this is a video that involves motion, the editor had to go frame by frame in order to achieve a seamless effect. Green screens work fine with one setting if there isn't motion, but when you introduce movement, the angles and the shape of the green tube change relative to the camera, which causes inconsistencies in how the chroma key effect works across different frames. As a result, we were able to catch those distorted frames around his hand and arm. The initial part of the trick we still haven't explained, which is how he was able to vanish the initial piece of dough placed behind his left hand, before apparently turning it into the French baguette. The method used was slightly different. Since we are talking about visual effects, it would be unfair not to have Captain Disillusion explain his craft of how objects are banished by magicians in such videos.
These videos all use rig removal techniques to erase a dropping coin and a hand placing it back, a card falling into the lap, a bill re-emerging under the Sharpie, and a coin continuously spinning on the table. It's done very cleanly, with reconstructed pieces of the background and clothing showing only the tiniest evidence of manipulation. A subtle shape shift in the vest, the reflections in the metal shirt beads freezing briefly, and the real shadows of the hands blending in and out of shadows captured separately in a take where the hands didn't obstruct the table and the coin wasn't on it.
At this point, you may have an important question. Why didn't he have just used the same method to make the French bread appear, instead of using the green tube? You have to understand from the video editor's perspective. The dropping of the dough out of frame lasted around a maximum of 24 frames, because you can already see the cameraman purposely zoomed in to reduce the distance between the dough and the frame of this footage. So it would have made his job a lot easier. But if you were to use the same technique for the production of the French baguette, the editor's job would have been a nightmare. Behind this mask, only the truth remains, till we meet again.